They say never meet your demons up close. But I laughed at that advice the day I walked into his cell. I never expected saving a man could feel like stepping into a tornado with my heart already exposed. I had been assigned the case in the heart of Chicago, tasked to rehabilitate and extract intelligence from Adrian Kane, a man labeled the most cunning and ruthless criminal in the Midwest. Yet when I saw him for the first time, something in his icy gaze made the air between us thrum with tension. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like temptation wrapped in danger. The first time our eyes met, I could feel the electric pull, even as I reminded myself that my job was strictly professional. Adrian smirked, an infuriating mixture of arrogance and charm that immediately set my nerves on edge. "You're here to save me?" he asked, voice smooth but laced with mockery. I nodded, keeping my composure, though my heart betrayed me with a fast, uneven beat. We spent the initial days in a cold, sterile facility in Chicago, our interactions loaded with sharp words and silent stares. He seemed to know exactly how to push my buttons, questioning my choices, teasing my vulnerabilities, forcing me to respond with both patience and restraint. And yet, there was something undeniably magnetic about the way he held himself, the way his eyes seemed to pierce through the walls I had built around my heart. One evening, during a routine assessment, I found myself lingering longer than I should have. I watched him tracing the bars with his fingers, a slight frown on his lips. "You think you can understand me, don't you?" he asked softly, almost vulnerable, a rare crack in his armor. I swallowed, my professional facade trembling. "I don't understand people like you," I admitted, the words uncomfortably honest. He tilted his head, intrigued rather than offended, and that look, it was like he could read every hidden corner of my mind. Days turned into weeks. The cold, distant interactions slowly morphed into a tense closeness. We began exchanging small, meaningless jokes that carried the weight of flirtation. I hated myself for the way my chest tightened whenever he laughed, the way his presence lingered in my thoughts long after I left the facility. Yet, Adrian remained unpredictable, alternating between cruelty and charm in a way that left me constantly on edge. He wasn't just dangerous outside. He was dangerous inside my mind. Then came the night that changed everything. A citywide blackout left us alone in the dim glow of emergency lights. Adrian's smirk softened into something unidentifiable, almost human. He stepped closer than he had before, and I could feel the warmth of his body, his dangerous aura replaced by a raw vulnerability. "You know," he whispered, "I could ruin everything for you in a heartbeat." I froze, my training clashing with the strange pull between us. "And yet here you are, not doing it," I countered, my voice barely steady. That small acknowledgement of restraint seemed to spark a silent connection between us, fragile yet undeniable. The more time I spent with him, the more I realized that beneath the surface of manipulation and calculated cruelty, there was a man struggling with demons far greater than my imagination could grasp. I saw flashes of kindness, rare smiles that lit up his otherwise guarded demeanor, moments where he seemed almost human. And in those moments, I felt my heart tethered to him in ways I didn't want to admit. It was a delicate dance of trust and temptation. Every interaction was charged, every glance heavy with unspoken words. We were constantly skirting the edge of boundaries, a magnetic pull neither of us could resist. I knew he could destroy me, yet the thought of leaving him behind off walking away was unbearable. He was both my challenge and my temptation, a storm I couldn't turn from even if I wanted to. One rainy evening, as the city streets glistened under the glow of streetlights, I found myself walking alongside him outside the facility. He didn't speak, but his hand brushed mine, almost accidentally. My chest tightened as I felt the electricity of that fleeting touch. "Do you always have to be so close?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He smirked, the mischievous glint returning. "Not close enough," he whispered. That single phrase made my world tilt, my heart racing with emotions I couldn't define, my professional resolve crumbling like fragile glass. It wasn't just attraction. It was an intimacy that had crept in unnoticed, entwining our fates in a way neither of us could escape. Every word, Every gesture carried a weight that made my professional duties feel insignificant compared to the storm raging between us. Adrian's dangerous charm was intoxicating, and I found myself willingly stepping closer, even knowing the risks. The lines between duty and desire blurred further when I discovered an attempt on his life orchestrated by his enemies. Against every protocol, I intervened, hiding him in my apartment until the threat passed. In that forced proximity, in the quiet of the night, the walls he had built around himself began to crumble. We talked for hours, revealing pieces of our pasts, our regrets, our fears. It was raw, intimate, human. I realized that beneath the dangerous exterior, Adrian yearned for connection just as much as I did, and in that realization, the tension between us transformed into a fragile, undeniable bond. By the time the threat passed, something in us had shifted irreversibly. What began as professional obligation had grown into something deeper, complicated, and profoundly human. We were two broken people finding solace in each other's presence, two hearts dancing on the edge of danger and desire, yet unwilling to retreat. The days that followed were a delicate balancing act. Adrian and I moved through the city like shadows, cautious yet audacious, always aware of the dangers surrounding us. But the tension between us, the unspoken desire, only grew stronger. Every glance lingered too long. Every brush of hands sent sparks through me I could no longer ignore. One night, after a long day of dodging threats and navigating bureaucratic red tape, we found ourselves on the rooftop of my apartment building, the skyline of Chicago glowing around us. The wind whipped through our hair, carrying the faint scent of rain and concrete, and for the first time, the chaos of our lives felt distant. "You always find a way to complicate things," I said, trying to sound annoyed, though my voice betrayed me with its softness. Adrian leaned closer, a sly grin tugging at the corner of his lips. "And yet you keep falling into them," he replied, voice low and teasing, brushing his fingers lightly against mine. That simple contact made my chest tighten, the warmth of him igniting a fire I could no longer deny. The city stretched endlessly below us, indifferent to the storm of emotions swirling above. Adrian's eyes, usually sharp and calculating, softened as he looked at me, and in that instant, I saw vulnerability I hadn't thought possible in someone so dangerous. He reached out, cupping my face with surprising gentleness. "I never thought I'd let anyone in," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't push you away anymore." My heart raced, a mixture of fear and longing flooding me. "And if I let you in?" I asked, though my words felt fragile, uncertain. His lips curved into a soft, almost imperceptible smile. "Then maybe we save each other," he said, and the intensity in his gaze left me breathless. It wasn't an immediate surrender, not for either of us. Our pasts were tangled, full of mistakes and regrets, and the dangers surrounding Adrian never truly disappeared. But for the first time, I felt a fragile hope that we could navigate it together. Our late-night conversations became confessions of dreams and fears, our shared laughter breaking through walls we hadn't realized we'd built. Each day we spent together brought a deeper intimacy, a quiet understanding that neither of us wanted to let go. One evening, as snow began to fall lightly over the city, Adrian and I found ourselves alone in my apartment. The world outside was cold and unyielding, but inside, warmth surrounded us. He looked at me, a rare softness in his eyes, and reached out to brush a strand of hair from my face. "You've changed me," he said, voice low and sincere. I swallowed, emotions threatening to overwhelm me. "You've changed me too," I admitted, realizing in that moment how deeply intertwined our lives had become. We embraced, the tension that had haunted us melting into something tender and real. Our connection was no longer just attraction or danger. It was trust, intimacy, and the shared understanding of two flawed people finding solace in one another. Adrian's hands held me firmly, yet gently, as if grounding himself as much as me, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The next weeks were a careful dance of normalcy and lingering chaos. We navigated the world cautiously, aware that Adrian's past could resurface at any moment, but determined to savor the fragile happiness we had discovered. Every moment together was precious morning coffees in the quiet of my kitchen, walks along the river where we spoke of dreams instead of threats, laughter echoing through the city streets. Adrian's charm remained, of course, but it was tempered by a new vulnerability, a willingness to let someone care for him without manipulation or games. And I, for the first time in years, allowed myself to embrace desire without fear, to trust without reservation. We were cautious yet unrestrained in our affection, savoring the intimacy of our shared moments while acknowledging the shadows that lingered at the edges of our lives. One evening, after weeks of careful planning, Adrian met with his former associates, not as a criminal, but as a man reclaiming his life. I stayed nearby, heart pounding as I watched him navigate the confrontation with a calm I hadn't expected. He emerged unscathed, a subtle but triumphant smile on his lips, and our eyes met across the crowded street. In that moment, I knew we had both changed irreversibly. Danger hadn't disappeared, but the bond we shared had become a shield stronger than any threat. Back at my apartment, the city lights flickering through the blinds, Adrian took my hand in his. "We survived," he said simply, voice steady yet filled with emotion. I smiled, pressing my forehead to his, feeling the warmth of his breath, the rhythm of his heartbeat syncing with mine. "We did," I replied, and for the first time, the weight of the past felt lighter, replaced by hope and quiet joy. Our love was unconventional, shaped by danger and temptation, but it was ours. We had navigated manipulation, risk, and our own fears, emerging not unscathed but stronger, bound by a shared vulnerability that had transformed into trust. Every challenge we faced only deepened our connection, and every stolen moment of tenderness reminded us why we had fought to stay close. In the end, it wasn't just about saving a criminal or surviving chaos. It was about discovering each other in the fragments of our broken pasts, about finding love where no one expected it, and about learning that even in the darkest corners of life, intimacy, trust, and hope could flourish. As Adrian rested his head against my chest, the city humming softly outside, I realized that our journey had been worth every risk. We had been reckless, vulnerable, and human, but in the end, we had found something eternal in each other. And for once, I didn't have to fight alone. We laughed quietly at the absurdity of it all, the dangerous criminal and the soldier who had once been his captor, now entwined in a love neither of us had expected but both of us cherished deeply. The storm of the past could rage, but here, in the quiet warmth of our shared life, we had found peace, connection, and a love that was as reckless as it was enduring. The night stretched on, silent except for the whispers of our hearts, and for the first time, I understood that true intimacy is never safe, but it is always worth the risk. And in Adrian's arms, I had finally found a home. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.